Hey, good afternoon to you. It is 5:07 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we are making sense of the news. You can join us today at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Here is President Trump earlier today at a Vietnamese restaurant in Virginia called Trung Tien.
This is a great gentleman. I love his name, Hung Cao. I love that name. And that name alone should get you elected, right? Yes, sir. But more importantly, actually, he's tremendous. He's tremendous. He ran a great primary campaign. I endorsed him very early, and he did very well. And we think he's got a very good chance of winning for the Senate. And I really believe it. I hope your community gets out and really supports him like 100%, because you can win. You can win, definitely win. Yep. And we're looking to win the state, and I think we will win the state. We're looking at polls that are showing us with a lead in the state, which is traditionally not necessarily for Republicans, but I'm not the average Republican.
Exactly, sir.
And neither are you.
You can say that again. Not the average Republican. There's President Trump this morning standing alongside Navy Captain Hung Cao, who is the Republican nominee for Senate in the Commonwealth, and he joins us now. Captain, good to talk to you as always, sir.
No, thank you so much, Vince.
What was it like being with the president this morning and getting a chance to spend a bunch of time with him? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, it started out pretty somber. This is the third anniversary of the Abbey Gate IED that killed 13 service members, 11 Marines, 1 sailor, 1 soldier. And what we forget is also the people that were injured and maimed from it. There was this young lady, beautiful young lady in a wheelchair, who was paralyzed from the waist down, and this gentleman who lost his arm and his leg, all because of just Joe Biden's ineptitude. I mean, honestly, we were never going to leave that country the way we were. It was going to be 25 special operations guys left behind as a quick reaction force. But if anything was to happen, Vince, we were supposed to fall back to Bagram Air Base, where 75th Rangers was going to circle around the base, and we would start pulling people out, one by one, but instead they gave that away to the Taliban. So, I mean, this is all on Joe Biden's, hands, and Kamala Harris. And where was Tim Kaine? He was on the Senate Armed Services Committee. He has done nothing. I didn't see him today. And not only that, where was he when we did the drone strike that killed 10 people, including 7 kids and aid workers that they blamed on the Abbey Gate? So this is an entire failure of leadership from the president on down.
And every officer like yourself that I'm aware of, every military officer that I know of, military members broadly, they all say the same thing, which is like, this should not have happened. What was this strategy? Why would you give up Bagram? I don't know a single one who thinks that this was the proper order of events.
No, and where are the stars? Where's General Milley's stars? Where's General McKenzie's stars for that debacle? I mean, no one's held responsible under Joe Biden's presidency. I mean, this goes all the way for everything that's going on in this country. It's all their fault. And, I mean, President Trump even said, Hung, I think they wanted it to fail. I was like, yes, sir, they did, and they wanted to blame it on you.
What was President Trump's demeanor like this morning at that event at Arlington, and what was it like to stand alongside him as he did that wreath line?
Well, he was my commander-in-chief, and I respect him greatly, and he stood there. Well, first of all, Arlington National Cemetery, the Biden administration tried to block him from going there.
Oh, they did try to block him.
Yeah, they did try, and I think they threw one of his poor staffers in jail for, they had him arrested for, trespassing because they didn't want cameras and everything other, even though the families wanted him there. The families wanted him there. The families that couldn't make it there FaceTime with him, and he spent the time to tell them, hey, how precious their son or daughter was. And, he was being what he was, which is a leader, a commander-in-chief. He wasn't checking his watch to see, how much time was passed. He spent the time with every single person.
So, I'm sorry, let me go over a couple of the details that you just shared with us. One of them is you said a Trump staffer was arrested. Do you know for a fact, or may have been arrested? What was that account?
They were. My account was that from what I hear, because the colonel that was in charge of that whole thing was trying to manhandle some of the guys, and he called security. I was there when he's like, call Arlington police. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I served with this guy. I knew this guy. He's a dork anyways. But, the fact is that they tried to stop President Trump from being there, and it took members of Congress like Congressman Mike Waltz and Darrell Issa and Brian Mast to come there as a CODEL to make sure that President Trump can be there.
And when you say they tried to stop him from being there, how did that manifest itself?
Basically, they were making it very difficult. They said, no, you can't come here because you're a political candidate. Like, it took the members of Congress to come out there, be side by side with him. I rode the vehicle the whole way with Tulsi Gabbard and Mike Waltz, and he was just complaining that this should have never happened the way it was. I mean, it's just a disgrace that the former commander-in-chief wanted to be there with his the families of the fallen Marines and soldier and sailor, and they kept them from being there.
So if I was a journalist who was trying to dig into this a little bit more, whose door should I be banging on right now? Is this the Pentagon who did this?
It would be yes, the Pentagon's ultimately responsible, but the Arlington National Cemetery,
Wow.
I'll give you the name of the guy later if you want, but yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. Incredible. Yeah, I'd appreciate that. So it's just amazing. Because one of my first reactions this morning upon seeing it was, one, my heart breaks yet again as I think about what happened in Afghanistan for all these families, including the people you just mentioned, were maimed in the explosion as we tried to get out of that country, in that awful way that the Biden-Harris administration orchestrated. But the other thing was, oh boy, I guarantee you the White House was not on board with Donald Trump going to that wreath-laying ceremony. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked to find out that somebody in DOD gets fired for this. Unlike, of course, the lack of accountability in leaving Afghanistan in the first place.
No, you're absolutely right. I was there in January 2021. We left a country that was starting to take the training wheels off. We were, they were ready to start fighting on their own. And what happened was just, it's a tragedy, and it's a criminal. It's actually criminal what they did. You know that the Taliban right now just passed a law that women cannot be heard in public. Like, they can't sing, they can't speak in public. Yeah. Where are all the feminist, movement guys? Where's Michelle Obama with her hashtag, all that stuff? Where are all these people fighting for freedom and liberty for women across the globe? There were nobody where to be found.
They're orchestrating a cover-up. Hey, tell us about your next event with President Trump this morning. You went on to Trung Tin. This is as I understand it, a Vietnamese restaurant. Is this a community center, an area for Vietnamese Americans to gather?
Yes, so it's at the Eden Center. It's basically little Saigon over there. Yeah. They're very, very MAGA, and they love the president very much. And the owner is this lady who came here in 2002. And, she was a victim of communism and escaped and came over here with $200. And she opened a whole bunch of stores here. It started with one small restaurant, then she bought another, then, and then a bunch of other stores. There's others. There's a barber. She came over here in 1992, and she opened her own store very recently. You've got people who've come over here who were in prison for 6 years by the communists and tortured in the re-education camp, who came over here with nothing. This is the American dream, and they came over here asking for nothing except for opportunity. And here they are, business owners and entrepreneurs.
And so President Trump arrives with you this morning, and I've seen all this video, to a very warm reception.
Oh, they loved him. They were just shouting his name, and they how they love taking pictures, and so they were just taking pictures away. And President Trump just said, "All right, come on up," and they took a lot of selfies with him. But he was just loving on them because the Vietnamese community they know what it's like, right? We escaped communism. We see what this country's turning into, and we're scared to death. And so the Vietnamese Americans here have been supporting him the whole way because he understands our struggle, and he understands that all we want is just an opportunity. We don't want a handout. We just want fairness.
Here's President Trump today with you at Trung Tin, talking to the Vietnamese community, saying that there's some mutual love here.
Somehow, I don't know what it is, you'll have to explain it, but the Vietnamese community loves me and I love them.
Kind of a fun moment. And one of the things I've noticed, Hung Cao, is that both you and he are totally right about this. We talked to Vietnamese Americans. There's a tremendous amount of enthusiasm about Trump and a lot of concern about the direction the left is taking our country.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Kamala Harris is an absolute communist. I mean, what she wants to do with what was it, unrealized potential? So they want to tax you on your
On your unrealized gains, yes.
Yes, exactly. Stuff that it might be worth someday. I mean, it's ridiculous. And what Tim Wolf did in Minnesota, where he wants to basically have a snitch line, he had a snitch line so that you can tell on your neighbors. This is exactly what communists do. And we're not going to allow that to happen in the United States because we escaped that. We're not going to let this country turn into what we ran away from. Mm-hmm. And I reminded President Trump that next year is the 50th anniversary of the fall of Saigon. And I'll be the first Vietnamese-American U.S. senator who will be inaugurated on the 50th anniversary. The 50 years after I fled this country, I'll be sworn in as the a U.S. senator for the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Pretty amazing. I do wonder as you conduct this campaign, and I just want to ask you, first of all, how the campaign is going, but secondly, as it relates to you being the first Vietnamese-American senator, I can't help but think that is a big deal in Northern Virginia. I've noticed when I go in to vote, among the languages on my ballot, Vietnamese, that's not a mistake. There's a lot of Vietnamese-Americans who live in Northern Virginia. How much of a difference might that make in this election, Hung Cao?
I think a lot of the immigrants, not just the Vietnamese Americans, the immigrants, they see themselves in me. They see their children in me and their grandchildren, the potential of what they could be. You know what I mean? So, to come here with nothing and to rise to the top, it is pretty, that is the American dream. That's what people came here for. People who came here legally did this. And so it's going to be a game changer in 2022. And that's why Tim Kaine is running around now, on your taxpayer dollars to try to remind people he's still relevant and still alive. He's like a cicada. He comes out every 6 years when there's an election, and now he's running around blowing a harmonica. Like, you're not going to catch me blowing anything. I'm just going to go out there and tell people what I'm going to do for this country.
Yes. And how much is your fortune as a candidate tied up with President Trump's fortune as a presidential candidate? Because right now I'm looking at numbers that show President Trump within a very close proximity to Kamala Harris. That's a huge deal in Virginia. It's within the margin of error. So you're looking at a coin toss right now. How much does your success depend on his success this November?
Well, I think it's symbiotic. I think that we'll help with Northern Virginia, like I said, with the immigrant community and the minorities. And then in Southwest, in Southwest Virginia and Hampton Roads area and Richmond, they're gonna go for President Trump. And so, look, Virginia is always late breaking. Any analyst will tell you that Virginia will come out late. And, the polls right now are just, look, it's just like asking you who's going to win the Super Bowl next year. It's too early.
Yeah, well, it sure is. All right. Well, Hung Cao, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time today and your accounting of everything that went down with another visit that you had today with President Trump. Good to talk to you today, sir. Okay, let's see. We've got more audio from President Trump at Trung Tin this morning with the Vietnamese community. Let's see here. Oh, he's asked about Kamala's desire for the microphones not to be muted anymore, but to be on at a debate that she seems to be flirting with backing out of. Take a listen to President Trump's response.
Would you want the microphones muted in the debate whenever you're not speaking?
We agreed to the same rules. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I'd rather have it probably on, but the agreement was that it would be the same as it was last time. In that case, it was muted. I didn't like it the last time, but it worked out fine. Ask Biden how it worked out. It was fine. And I think it should be the same. We agreed to the same rules. Same rules and same specifications. And I think that's probably what it should be. But they're trying to change it. The truth is they're trying to get out of it because she doesn't want to debate. She's not a good debater. She's not a smart person. She doesn't want to debate.
Yeah, that's true. She's trying to figure out a way to squirrel her way out of this. She wants to get out of that debate. She doesn't want any unscripted moments. She knows that they will hurt her. So that was a fun visit this morning. Again, President Trump alongside Captain Hung Cao at a Vietnamese restaurant meeting with Vietnamese Americans. Kind of an interesting dynamic, and I don't see a lot of legacy press, corporate press covering this today at all, really. Let's see. I've got Kathy calling in from Vienna now, line 3. Hello, Kathy. You're on the Vince Colonnade Show.
Hi, Vince. How are you? Thank you so much for taking my call.
My pleasure.
Hey, I've been a recovering liberal for 30 plus years. And what saved me is someone called in a radio station and read the 45 communist agenda items from the Naked Communist book by Coglianese.
Huh.
And I'm thinking, we really need to start talking about the forest, this instead of the trees, being in the trees, because the forest argument is that this is an election for good versus evil, for communists versus a free America. But a younger generation, they have no clue what communism is. Everyone's saying she's a communist, whatever. Well, that's true, but they don't understand that the communists came in and took over Vietnam, North Korea. They don't know world political history. And someone needs to be educating the American people, because they got a horrible education.
Yes.
They got indoctrinated in college. So that's why a lot of Vietnamese and other immigrants, even though they left communist countries, they're liberals, because our colleges brainwashed them into liberalism, like I was 30 years ago. But
well, the Vietnamese immigrants, you're talking about sort of young people, first generation, who maybe didn't live with it all. But Vietnamese immigrants, by and large, they're aware of the threat. They talk about it, and they're evangelists for liberty, which is a sign of their proximity to communism, their familiarity with it, and how desperately they don't want it to be here. So that's why we need people like Hung Cao. We need these people who have a sense of the horrors of communism, the body count of communism, who can speak out against it, Kathy.
Generation Russians, first generation Chinese. I've seen it. They get brainwashed in our universities, and I give out flyers at the polls for ballots, and I see people coming in to vote and what ballot they take. So I totally appreciate his educating the Vietnamese community, but I'm saying the young people have gotten the brainwash job out of our universities. And I don't know if you're even familiar with the communist goals read into the congressional record in 1963 by a Florida congressman. And so, I mean, just some of the thing is take over one of the political parties, infiltrate the press. All this has come true. And, basically by putting communists on the Supreme Court in 1963, taking the Bible out of college. So anyway, Vince, if you could help educate some of the younger people, I'd appreciate it.
It's an expansive effort to infect every institution, and we're watching it right now. Kathy, thank you. I appreciate that call. All right, hold on. More of your calls coming up here on the Vince Coglianese Show. Stay with us. Hey, good afternoon to you. It's now 5:36 here, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. You can join us today, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. Some more Democrats now endorsing Trump's campaign, disaffected Democrats. They say they're sick of their old party. It is not working out for any of us. It's time to back Trump. Tulsi Gabbard joining the ranks of those Democrats today. I will share some audio with you coming up. But before I get there, some calls coming in. I've got Peggy Sue calling in from Frederick, Maryland on line 2. Peggy Sue, good afternoon to you.
Good evening. How are you?
Nice. I'm doing great. Thank you for joining us. What's up?
I did the crisis pregnancy center before I got married, and I did it when I got married. And I got this phone call in the middle of the night on a Sunday night, and she was anticipating abortion. And
when you say, I'm sorry, Peggy, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I want to make sure I understand. You said you did the crisis pregnancy center. Does that mean you needed their assistance, or do you work for one?
I worked for them.
Okay.
And I got this phone call, and she was anticipating abortion, and that's all I remember of the conversation. My husband said I used words and phrases that he'd never heard me use before. And I answered the phone and I said, let the good Lord help you make the right decision. 9 months later, I got a phone call. She said to me, her name was Amy. She said, Peggy Sue, would you like to hold the little baby that you held, or that you saved? I said, I didn't save your baby. The good Lord did. I went and I held that baby, and let me tell you, that baby was washed with my tears.
Oh, that's so sweet. That is, so the phrase was, let the good Lord, repeat that for me.
Let the good Lord help you make the right decision.
Let the good Lord help you make the right decision. Well, it's I like that she called it. It expressed an openness clearly to that outcome. She just needed somebody to push her along, and that was you, Peggy.
And I don't believe in abortion any way you slice it. It's not the baby's fault. Let the baby live and tell the mother's story.
Yeah. Peggy Sue, thank you for that.
That's me. But I wanted to tell you I enjoy your program. I listen to you every day.
Well, that's so nice of you. I really appreciate it. And I love especially people who've done the line of work you've been in, Peggy Sue, working at those crisis pregnancy centers. Angels on earth. And I can tell every time I talk to one, including you. Peggy Sue, thank you very much.
You have a great one. Bye-bye.
You too. Nice to talk to you. All right. So that's a sweet story. A life saved. See, the WMAL audience is amazing. The Vince Coglianese Show, we save lives here. That's the goal. And Peggy Sue doing that just by being a good person. All right. Let us see. Sam in Alexandria is calling in. He wants to weigh in on the fact that we have illegal aliens committing all sorts of sex crimes and then not being turned over to Immigration and Customs Enforcement by the Fairfax County Sheriff's Department. Hello, Sam.
Yeah, brother, how you doing? I'm sorry. It's been so long since we've spoken, and that means I'm way too busy, and I really enjoy listening to the show.
Thank you.
What I'd like to say is, as elected officials, and I'm sure the Fairfax County Sheriff is elected, at some point you have to look at these kind of policies and allow your humanity to come through and say, hold on. We're not talking about a traffic violation. We're not talking about, some administrative sentencing or something of that nature, as well as whoever sentenced this guy to 6 months. This is the life that has been a innocent life has been affected by their actions, and future innocent lives will be impacted if I follow through with this policy that elected people, politicians, let's call them what they are, have put through. And at some point, and I would go as far as saying, the Fairfax County Jail, if you work there, is look at your humanity. What if that is my daughter, the next victim? What if that's my grandchild who is the next victim? And, put it in that perspective. And just do the right thing.
Yeah, do the right thing. It's crazy we've gotten to the point, Sam, where maybe there's like a police officer or some aide who works in the building who might have to quietly tip off ice, like, hey, we're about to release this awful illegal into the community. Can you imagine the subversive thing to do is to enforce the law? The subversive thing to do is to protect the community. That's the world the left has built, because this is incoherent. If you say that you want to protect illegal aliens, or as you might call them, undocumented immigrants, well, then why would you release the pedophiles back into those communities? Why would you, if you have a concentration of so-called undocumented migrants, or whatever phrase you're using, why would you release the guy who, let's see, he was convicted of sexually assaulting a child? That was his actual conviction. He's also been charged with DWI. He's also been charged with felony possession of child pornography, felony possession of obscene material with a minor. The list goes on and on. So why are you releasing this guy into the community that you say you want to protect?
You're exactly right. And I'm glad you brought up that point, because you're releasing him into the community that is likely not going to report the guy. But I tell you what, I'll straight up, if it was my child, they wouldn't have to worry about a repeat offender, because he'd have me to deal with, and that would be the last time that he would have some kind of an act like that with a young child.
Well, that's exactly right. That's how you create a world where street justice is the only recourse to stop this. That's how you create that world.
Yeah.
And
that's not a good world to be in. We don't need that. We don't want that. So those that are in those positions, just do the right thing. It's your child eventually that's going to be impacted by this one way or another.
It's crazy. Thank you, Sam, for calling our attention to that again. Thank you, sir. Good to hear from you today. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. Of course, the left is out there lying about it. Shannon Bream on Fox News Sunday was talking to Jared Paulus of Colorado. Here is how that went.
Under this administration, we have had millions of new people come to this country in a way that it is unregulated. It doesn't follow our laws, and it is impacting housing markets. Is that part of the problem in Colorado and beyond?
Look, there's no doubt we'd be in a better place today if former President Trump hadn't torpedoed the bipartisan border security plan that would have finally locked down the border.
That's a scam. It would not lock down the border. Shannon Bream intercepts him.
But that comes 3.5 years into this administration. You're repealing executive orders and doing all kinds of things that led us to these historically high numbers.
Well, look, I mean, Democrats have supported border security for decades. I supported it in Congress, sponsored bills to do it. And again, we can't let politics stand in the way of solving it.
They've been supporting amnesty packages over and over and over again. They want a redux of what happened in 1986, where Reagan gets promised that we'll have border security in exchange for amnesty, signs off on it, and what do we get? Amnesty, no border security. And then you fast forward in time, this century, the left and the right they have joined forces together to try and pass amnesty packages, and nobody thinks they're serious about securing our border at all. Certainly the left is not. Trump is. Biden, Kamala, they kicked it open. They use your tax dollars to accelerate the decline.
And so, while, again, there might be blame on both sides, the most recent attempt to fix it was clearly torpedoed by former President Trump, and that's why we have a chaotic border today. Very clear.
Wrong.
That's the matter.
It's a lie.
Okay, well,
very clear. Do you hear him? He's like, you can't even debate this. Very clear. What did he say? That's the matter?
Former President Trump, and that's why we have a chaotic border today. Very clear. That's the matter.
That's the matter.
Of course.
Okay, well, that there are a number of senators we've had on this show and beyond who will say that they weren't going to vote for that bill regardless of whether President Trump liked it or not. They had real concerns with it in the House and the Senate.
They gave $60 billion to Ukraine, $20 billion to make more people come across our border.
Well, the key question to ask them then is, what amendments would you like to make to improve it? I mean, any idea that
getting rid of all of that crap.
Well, they'll say they weren't allowed to make amendments.
I'm sure Democrats are for. Well, then that's their problem. But look, that's what they're there for.
She goes, the Republicans say they weren't allowed to make amendments. Well, that's their problem, he says, like a child. What? You just blame Trump for the border crisis.
On ideas from the left and the right. But again, the key thing is the border would be locked down today if not for President Trump thwarting that effort, preventing that effort.
Another lie. Anyway, that's the governor of Colorado, Jared Polis. They've been acting like he's going to be a big deal in the future. That guy's a star. He's a total star. Well, he sounds like a lot like the rest of their stars. He just lies. Just fake it till you make it. It's the Kamala Harris school. Let's see here. Meanwhile, another Sunday show, Senator Tom Cotton. You may have heard about this by now. Senator Tom Cotton had a great appearance with ABC News' Jonathan Karl. And here's how that went.
And President Trump is going to draw a sharp contrast with Kamala Harris, who has supported things like decriminalizing illegal immigration or giving taxpayer-funded health insurance to illegal aliens or taking away health insurance on the job for 170 million Americans, banning gas cars, confiscating firearms.
What do you mean taking away health insurance?
Oh, by the way, I got to say, I just love that out of that list of things, the one thing Jonathan Karl jumps on, everything's awful about what Kamala Harris is doing to the country. He's like, what do you mean taking away health insurance? I thought we were doing health insurance for all.
Banning gas cars, confiscating firearms.
What do you mean taking away health insurance? What are you talking about?
She said when she ran for president that she wants to eliminate private health insurance on the job. 170 million Americans, John.
Yeah, I mean that is not her position now.
How do you know that's not her position? How do you know that's not her position?
I mean, she says she no longer supports Medicare for all.
She has not said that. Okay. Maybe anonymous aides on a Friday night have said that, but the last thing
he's right about this. There's what Jonathan Karl is doing right here is eliding the fact, sailing past the fact that Kamala Harris has not actually addressed this at all. To the extent we've seen anything about what her policies aren't, rather than what they are, it's campaign operatives telling a reporter on background she doesn't support this. No, we're not doing that. Oh, no, not that. That unpopular thing, we don't support that. We just support popular stuff. That's what's been happening. And so Jonathan Karl, who would, if this were Trump, he would scrutinize every syllable. I didn't hear Trump say that. I heard a campaign operative say that. I didn't hear Trump himself say that. Does Trump actually believe that? What's his actual policy? I heard blah, 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 blah. That's what we'd be getting in Trump's case. Kamala, you're willing to accept as gospel truth whatever you want to wish into existence. Oh, she's not for eliminating private insurance. She's not for that. That's not her position.
She has not said that.
She has not said that. She has not said that. Maybe anonymous aides on a Friday night have said that, but the last thing that she said
but
on
this
most
was not
of
a
these
radical convention. I mean, you heard me go through with Bernie Sanders, she is not taking the positions of the far left of her party. She's clearly making an effort to move to the middle.
I did hear what you said to Senator Sanders, and I thought it was clear that he's very disappointed that she's taking these efforts not to change her positions, but to hide her positions, John. The American people are totally justified to conclude that Kamala Harris is a dangerous San Francisco liberal based on what she campaigned on the last time she ran for president and what this administration has done for the last 4 years. Again, you would have thought watching the Democratic convention last week that the Democrats are not in office, that they're not in power, that they're campaigning against an incumbent Republican, when in reality, she's been part of the failures of the Biden-Harris administration for 4 years. And when she campaigned for president, in her own right, she did in fact promise things like decriminalizing illegal immigration and taking away health insurance.
But that's a position she's clearly changed on, and she has said she has changed. Yes, she has.
No, she has not. John, she has not said that.
Yes, she has. What is that? That's the nanny boo-boo of television interviews? Yes, she has. Nanny boo-boo. What? No take-backs. What are you talking about? Did she say that? Play the clip. How about this? Here's a clip for you. Jonathan Karl, Kamala Harris, 2020.
Unlike Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, she hasn't come out for some of those big-ticket progressive items, Medicare for all, abolish ICE.
Yeah. Let's see here. Kamala Harris talked to Jake Tapper at one point. What did she say?
Follow up on that, and correct me if I'm wrong. To reiterate, you support the Medicare for All bill, I think initially co-sponsored by Senator Bernie Sanders. You're also a co-sponsor on it. I believe it will totally eliminate private insurance.
I believe, well, that would be the effect of that.
So for people out there who like their insurance, they don't get to keep it?
Well, listen, the idea is that everyone gets access to medical care. And you don't have to go through the process of going through an insurance company, having them give you approval, going through the paperwork, all of the delay that may require. Who of us has not had that situation where you got to wait for approval and the doctor says, well, I don't know if your insurance company is going to cover this? Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on.
Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on. Your private insurance, the insurance that you prefer? You prefer the government not run your entire insurance program? Everything they run is incompetent. Everything they run is incompetent. When have you walked away from a government program and you're like, man, that smooth sailing, that went great. I'm so glad the government's in charge of this. That never happens, ever, including if you're dependent on Medicare and would like to keep your Medicare, which President Trump says he's fighting to make sure happens. People are not thrilled with their exposure to the government. It never ends up that way. And there's Kamala Harris advocating for her Bernie Sanders-supported position of eliminating private health insurance in the United States of America. All right, let's go to the phones. I've got Allison calling in from Harmony, North Carolina. Great name for a town. Allison, good to talk to you. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I only want to say 13 words, 13 names. Nicole G., Taylor Hoover, Jared Schmitz, Maxton William Soviak, Riley McCullum, Kareem Nakui, Jahani Rosario Picardo, David Lee Espinoza, Dagan Page, Hunter Lopez, Ryan Noss, Dylan Marola, Alberto Sanchez.
Allison, thank you for that call. I think she read the 13 names of the troops that were killed in Abbey Gate 3 years ago. She hung up at the conclusion of that. At the Abbey Gate in Afghanistan 3 years ago today. It's unbelievable that it's been 3 years, isn't it? Unbelievable. President Trump there for the wreath laying this morning in Arlington National Cemetery, alongside Hung Cao, who told us I think a very interesting story that there were people within the Biden administration looking to stop President Trump from even being there this morning as Joe Biden heads off to the beach. Kamala Harris is in a basement somewhere. President Trump present this morning to honor their lives. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay. Tomorrow on the Vince Callahan Show, we'll keep covering everything that's going on with the campaign. Interesting polling data coming out suggesting this one is going to be a nail biter. That's good news for Trump, who tends to have more support than the polls detect. Stay with us. The great one, Mark Levin, up next here on WMAL.